So this past week was the Winter NAMM 2024 out in California, and this is where a whole bunch of companies will come together and announce and demo all the new gear, all the new products that they have coming out. And this year is no exception. Tons of new stuff has been announced and is coming out, and I can't cover it all here, but I want to share with you today some of the things that I'm really excited for that is coming out and that was announced. And I think if you're a fan of the channel, you'll be excited about as well. So let's get into it. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Sunday Tone. I'm Brendan, and to kind of kick off my list of NAMM 2024 releases that I'm excited for, I want to start with BadCat. And BadCat announced their new Rubicon head, which is a 25 watt EL84 head that's kind of in a small form factor, along the same lines as something like the Rev D20, if you're familiar with that. But this is more AC, British kind of voiced. And I don't know of a bunch of amps that are out there that kind of have that sound in this format. And it comes with the 2 Notes technology built in, so you'll be able to load IRs and run silent out of this in kind of the front of house, or use it in a variety of ways, whether you're using a cab with it and you're just using the direct out to record. Variety of things you can do with it. I think it's a really cool amp. It has 2 channels, a couple different gain modes, and it comes with a foot switch. So I'm excited to hear more about this amp and to try it out once it is released. All right, so the next announcement that I'm really excited for is the Browne Amplification Carbon X. And if you're familiar with their Protein pedal, which is a dual overdrive blues breaker on one side, a modified Nobles ODR1 on one side, this kind of takes that formula, and instead of having the Nobles on the other side, it's another blues breaker. And from my understanding, this was a collaboration they did with David Ryan Harris, and he kind of took the Protein to them and said, what if you had a blues breaker on each side and they kind of could stack those together? So that's what they did, and they've kind of modified it a bit to kind of stack and work really well and complement each other. But this is along the same lines as something like a King of Tone, and if you know anything about that, super long waiting list or a super high price tag on reverb. So this is kind of a better option if that's something you've been looking for. And I know for me, for a while, I've thought about getting a Protein and had the same thought. What if they did a dual carbon? Because I really love stacking 2 different blues breakers together. And so that's what they did, and I actually ordered one, so I'm excited to get it in and be able to test it out. All right, so the next announcement on my list is the Daily Driver Boost pedal from Shnobel Tone. And if you're not familiar with the original Daily Driver, it is a super nice overdrive that kind of has low gain sounds, mid gain sounds, kind of higher gain sounds. It's kind of like a super flexible overdrive. And a ton of people use it, a ton of people love it. I've never had a chance to try one, but I've been thinking about it for a while. And what's nice about this new version is it incorporates a boost that you can either put before the overdrive or you can put it after. So whether you want to kind of get a second gain stage out of it by putting it in front and boosting the front end of the pedal, or putting it after and being able to use that as kind of a solo boost or to boost kind of cleaner, low gain type parts of a song. So I'm really excited for this pedal. You should check it out. And kind of in the past, I've kind of strayed away from some of these overdrives that are in larger enclosures, just because they take up more space on your pedal board. But now that this one incorporates the boost into it, it's kind of a little bit more appealing and you can get a little bit more out of it. So if you're using a smaller board, you kind of get 2 different functions out of it, or just on any board. I think it is a really cool pedal and you should check it out. So the next announcement on my list is another overdrive. There's, just a lot of overdrives on this list that I'm excited for. So who knows? My overdrive section on my pedal board might be completely different in a month or 2 here. But it is none other than the Keeley Electronics Muse driver. And this is a collaboration between Keeley and Andy Timmons. And if you're not familiar, they've done a few collaboration pedals already, whether it be the Halo Delay or the Keeley At-Mod, which is kind of a modded blues driver. And so this new pedal, the Muse driver, is a continuation of the collaboration that they did on the Keeley At-Mod, which I believe was a limited run pedal. And so this is the kind of the newer, improved version of that, kind of for their standard lineup, that has Robert Keeley's specs and modifications to the blues driver circuit, as well as Andy Timmons. And so you can kind of flip between those settings, and on one side, and on the other side you can kind of flip between some different germanium diodes versus some other diodes, and kind of get some different sounds out of it. But I'm a huge fan of the blues driver, and I was a big fan of the Noble Screamer that they put out recently, and this kind of takes that same format but applies it to the blues driver along with Keeley and Andy Timmons mods. So super cool overdrive. I think if you're looking for a flexible overdrive that can kind of do some boost sounds as well as some kind of, you know, bigger, higher gain sounds, this is a cool one to look at. All right, so next up on my list is another amp, and it's actually a series of amps. Vox announced that they are kind of reimagining their hand-wired series kind of from the ground up by going back to some of those original 60s AC30 designs, kind of tearing apart, finding all of the measurements and parts and kind of recreating it to be as accurate to that as possible. So you have everything from an AC30 to an AC15, AC10, and an AC4. And so for what I understand, they have gone back to kind of a thinner cabinet that is more indicative of the cabinet that was used in the 60s, as well as redesigning a new transformer for the amp, and just kind of taking another look at it and saying, how can we make this more accurate to those original amps that are highly sought after, that cost a ton of money and are a ton of work to kind of fix up and make sure they're running correctly. So these are really cool. I think they added a effects loop that is bypassed when you're not using it on the AC15 and AC30. But super cool amps. I would love to try one now that they've kind of been redesigned. All right, so next up is actually a whole line of pedals. And if you're familiar with Jackson Audio, they kind of came to a deal with Fulltone to kind of re-release and kind of start reproducing all of Fulltone's pedals. And if you're not familiar, I think a year or some time ago, Fulltone announced that they were shutting down production of their pedals, and kind of Fulltone was no more. And Brad Jackson, I believe, from Jackson Audio reached out and came to a deal where Jackson Audio will now be producing the Fulltone lineup, and he will be working with the founder of Fulltone to kind of design any new pedals that they want to, and any new designs they'll come up with together. But Jackson Audio is now manufacturing and kind of fulfilling Fulltone orders. So this is really cool news if you're a fan of Fulltone pedals like the Full Drive or the OCD or the Plimsoll. They have a whole bunch of different pedals that have been used for years across tons of different boards. And it was kind of a bummer to hear that they were shutting down and the prices on some of these pedals skyrocketed. But now if you've been trying to get something like a Full Drive on Reverb or a OCD, you can go ahead and order one from Sweetwater at a kind of decent price. So it was cool to see that happen. I think Jackson Audio's pedals are pretty high quality and they sound really good. So it's kind of cool to see that they'll be kind of taking over and making them. So I'm interested to see what new stuff they come out with and kind of what they do with the brand. All right, so the last announcement on my list and a piece of gear that I want to kind of share with you that I'm excited for is the Fender switchboard. And the Fender switchboard is a loop switcher that they designed in collaboration with RJM, which, if you know, is famous for their PBC products. They have a whole bunch of rack products and stuff that professionals use, you know, on tour all over the place. I know a bunch of people use the PBC 10 and PBC 6X. So cool to see them collaborate on this new switcher together. And it's kind of more of a budget friendly versus some of those options. Loop switcher, I believe it has 5 loops. It has a really cool display screen with an encoder to kind of go through the menus, and that's one thing I really like about it, is it has this screen that allows you to kind of see what's going on. You can reorder the loops. You can do a lot of the things that you can do with some of those more expensive units. You can send MIDI CC and program change messages. You can do a whole lot of stuff with it, but it comes in really closely priced to some of the Boss switchers. So if you're looking at the Boss ones, I think this is a really good one to look at as well. But I think it looks really sleek and the UI looks really nice. You can hook up a volume pedal with it and be able to move that around in the signal chain, which is cool. The only bummer for me with it, I feel like, is that it's only one stereo loop. So if you have multiple stereo pedals that you want to use with it, it's kind of not going to be able to happen unless you put those stereo pedals kind of at the end of your chain and use MIDI to kind of switch those from this unit. But then you kind of lose the ability to be able to switch the order of the effects, which is kind of part of the draw of this pedal, is being able to take the loops and on each preset be able to rearrange them. But I think it's really cool to see Fender come out with this product. I'm not sure if they have software that goes along with it to be able to build presets and kind of your set list out on the computer, but I'd be more interested to hear about that. But I'm interested to see people kind of incorporate this into their rig and kind of build it out. All right, so that is my list of things that I'm excited for that I wanted to kind of share from NAMM. I'm kind of bummed a little bit that Line 6 didn't announce anything new. I was kind of hoping there'd be you know, some kind of preview of maybe the next Helix or some capture technology that they might implement, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see, you know, what's next for Line 6. But let me know in the comments below what you're excited for, maybe some announcements that I might have missed. But thanks for checking out this video, and I will see you all in the next one.